So, breastfeeding in a ring sling is what I'm going to talk a little bit about today. I'm going to show you how to feed in several different positions, so starting with an upright feed, moving to a cradle hold, and moving to a rugby hold. I'm also going to show you a quick way of changing breasts easily when the rings get in the way on one side of a ring sling. For me, I found ring slings a really easy thing to feed in with my second child, but I didn't find them easy at all with my first. Now that could be something about the way that we fed, or it could have just been practice. And it is really important to remember that this is something that you will need to practice, and it's also something that will be different person to person because we've all got different bodies and we've all got different babies. So whilst this might work for lots of people, it might not work for everybody. But this is how I would move from starting with a baby in a ring sling into different feeding positions. Okay, so I'm going to start with upright feeding, and I'm going to show you how to feed on both the non-ring side and the ring side. When you're upright feeding, you have a couple of different options. You can either lower the whole carry, or you can give yourself room here to allow your baby to slump down a little bit to feed, so they'll end up in a more deep-seated squat. So, to show you the first one, we're going to lower the whole carrier on a ring sling. What you would do is open the rings here and let out some slack. Then, supporting your baby, you can let that whole carry come down until they are in a breastfeeding position. You can then tighten the carrier in that position. So this might not be comfortable for huge amounts of time because baby's quite low, but they're quite secure in the carrier. When your baby is breastfeeding, you're still looking for the same safety checks. You're making sure your baby's bottom is supported in the carrier. You're making sure their hands are cupping the breast. You're making sure their nose is free and that their head is clear to move backwards so they can come on and off the breast as they need to. Then to come back up into the upright position you started in, you would bring your baby back into position, bring any slack around the carrier towards the rings, and then tighten. If you wanted to just lower the top part of the baby, now this will work for some people whose breasts can be lifted higher, you can just loosen the top part of the carrier by opening the top of the ring, which can give you enough room to just let your baby drop slightly and get your breast up to feed. If you want to feed on the side with the rings, all you would need to do is shift the whole carry slightly round. So you might need to pull slightly here and lift the ring slightly higher and bring your baby across your body to feed on the other side. And then again, to come back into an upright position, you would bring your baby up, support them back in the ring sling, bring all the slack down into the position that you want them to, bring the slack to the rings and tighten. Okay, so that's upright feeding. Feeding in a cradle hold, where the legs are on one side of your body, head's on the other side of the body. You can do that on either breast. So I'm going to start with showing that feed on my left breast, so opposite the rings. So I'm going to loosen off the whole ring sling. I'm going to put my hand inside, support my baby's bottom, and reach for the leg that is furthest away. I'm going to support my baby's head, and I'm going to bring them down into a cradle position. Once I've got my baby supported with the other arm, with this fabric here, I'm going to come underneath and make sure that it comes between me and my baby, so they're sitting in a deep pocket. I'm also going to make sure that they've got one hand either side of the breast, their head is free to move, and their legs are out. And then you can feed on this side. So from here, if I wanted to come back up to upright, I would put my hand inside the carrier, support my baby's bottom, lift them back into the upright position, and then I can reposition the fabric, bring all the slack back to the rings, tighten. If I want to feed in a cradle position on the other breast, it can be a little bit more tricky because the rings are in the way. Once I've shown you the rugby hold, I'll show you a trick for switching the side of the rings so that you can do either rugby or cradle hold on the other breast very easily. So if I wanted to do a rugby hold feed, where the head is at the breast and the legs come around here behind you, then similarly to the cradle hold, I would loosen off the whole ring sling, but this time I would support my baby's bottom with the other hand, bring my baby's legs round, making sure that this fabric came under their bottom and supported into a deep pouch. And again, I could support here. I would make sure that the hands were cupping the breast and the baby's head could move freely and they were secure. If I needed to be in this position for a while, I could even tighten this slightly, but not too much so that baby's head can still move. Again, to come back up to upright, you would lift your baby, put your hands inside the fabric to bring your baby back into the position that you want them to be. Bring all the slack across your baby and back to your tightening over here. So now I'd like to feed on the opposite side, either in a cradle or in a rugby hold. So I'm going to loosen off the carrier here, and then I'm actually going to take one arm out of the carrier and put the other arm in the other side so that the other shoulder is covered. This then allows me to very easily go into a cradle hold with a deep pouch, hands cupping the breast and my baby's head free to move, or it would allow me to go into a rugby hold. Again, I could bring Again, I would bring my hand under the fabric, support my baby's bottom, bring them round, make sure this was a deep pouch that they were fully supported in, support their head, make sure the hands were cupping the breast, and support my baby. So there you go, that's feeding in lots of different positions. And then after all the feeds were finished, I could bring my baby back up to upright. I would bring this arm back through, and the rings up on the shoulders. I would bring this arm back through, and then I would seat my baby back in the ring sling. Bring all the slack across and then tighten. So there you go. That's feeding in 3 different positions on both breasts in a ring sling. Thank you.